Hi, hello, my name's Chris. This is Start the Day, Start the Week from Felixstowe, and this is the new podcast that's associated with that local news and information page. I've got a bit of a confession to make, which is really that I never intended to do any more news and information in Felixstowe after selling the quite large Felixstowe Live page, which had about 8,500 followers. But I sold that a lot earlier in the year with the intention of cutting down my news activities. But all that happened was that page has now been closed. I don't know the whys and wherefores, but I'm very against losing any local news source in Felixstowe. So I thought what I'd try and do is put together something much smaller, much more to suit my personal needs of not doing quite as much as I have been over the past 3 or 4 years. So there you have it. So Felixstowe Live seems to have disappeared, nothing to do with me, but I thought all I'll do is do a little thing, maybe working with Felixstowe Radio, and try to do local news, keep you up to date with what's happening in our locality, because the paid for news sources or the national news sources like BBC Local Radio, Archant, that is the Star and Anglian, don't seem to be doing half as much local news as they were, and things like BBC TV, well, really and truly, they're not much of a local service anymore. Look East seems to be just really the combined east and west of East Anglia, and a lot more stuff seems to happen in the west. There you go. I started reporting local news in Felixstowe and surrounding districts in around 2004 with something called Felixstowe TV. I finished that in 2006 and passed it on to some other people who kept running it for a number of years on and off. Quite an interesting channel and very worthwhile. I had the opportunity to go and make some programmes for a Sky channel, and I made 3 separate series over a period of about 6 or more years, 7 years I think nearly, and made literally hundreds of half-hour shows which were broadcast on Sky. So that was fun to do, and then I had an issue where I couldn't really do that anymore, so I came back to doing local stuff that I love. I ran a channel on YouTube called Shipping TV, which is still on YouTube but nothing to do with me, and that has a subscriber count of around 24,000 subscribers worldwide, so I'm quite proud of that as a past effort. My most recent news effort, which was the Felixstowe Live channel, got up to about 8,500, but I really wanted to cut back because there was a lot of work involved, and I have to tell you, I am getting older and I like watching films on TV in the afternoon instead of working. So coming back to my original thesis, Felixstowe people do deserve a good level of local news. I don't think we get an appropriate level of local news. We're getting a lot more interest and information through outlets like Felixstowe Radio, but that's not the same as news. News is stuff that's happening kind of now, and I'd like to continue doing that, or continue providing it, if you like. And if you'd like me to do that, and if you'd like to join with me in doing that, I'd love to hear from you. So the plan for Start the Day and Start the Week from Felixstowe is really to run some stories every week, to include some decent photographs and some decent video, to give you stories that are relevant to our local area. The area that I'm going to be covering is Felixstowe, Harwich, Shotley and Woodbridge. These are areas in our neck of the woods that really don't get too much coverage from any other media. There's a limited amount of coverage goes out in the East Anglian Evening Star. There's a limited amount of coverage goes out on Radio Suffolk, BBC Radio Suffolk, and there's again a very limited amount of coverage that goes out on BBC Look East and BBC East News. So the reality, I think, is that the more stories we can carry, the more information that we can get from local areas, local to those 3 or 4 areas that I've mentioned, the better for people living there. We'll look at things like planning concerns. If you have planning concerns, we'll look at things like the way businesses are operating in our area. We'll look at local councils and authorities. And in fact, anything that you tell us you're interested in or that you have a story about, we'll cover it. What you need to do really to make sure that your local news gets covered is keep in touch. Keep a check on our page, follow our page if you can. And also, if you come across an interesting story that you think is relevant to you, your area, the area we cover, just get in touch. There's no problem. We can talk to people, we can ask questions, and sometimes we can get answers. My name's Chris. This is Start the Day, Start the Week from Felixstowe, and we'd love to hear from you, and we'd love to have your company.